The future of Pokemon cards is a very interesting topic to me because I just feel a lot of collectors just expect that the future will play out in a certain way. Though what I've actually seen over the years is that unexpected events can completely shift the game. For example, I remember once seeing a post, this was a few years back, talking about how a PSA 10 Moonbreon would probably never be overtaken in the market because it was just like a once in a lifetime thing for how popular it became. Though what's funny, when we're actually looking at it now, the prismatic evolutions in PSA 10 seems to be ahead of Moonbreon, which I don't think anyone would have thought possible a few years back. And that's kind of just opened up a whole new thought process, and a whole new paradigm has shifted, because if another top Umbreon chase card will get released, will that now be more expensive than the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon? So it's like, what are we actually collecting anymore? Is longevity the main thing in the hobby, or is just what's new and trending? Though that's why within this video, I do want to go over some of the areas of what I'm expecting for the future of Pokemon cards and Pokemon collecting, and I'll explain why I believe these areas will happen. The main aspect here is forecasting the future, and the way we do that is we kind of look at the previous trends and then we assume the same intent for the future, but also I will be giving some of my own thoughts as well. Being a creator in the space, you kind of are in a bit of a unique position, especially with a channel like mine, because there's not actually that many, there's a lot of creators out there, but in terms of seeing all the comments come in terms of me having to research a lot of new videos and all of that, my Discord community and how much I see discussion there, it does give me a very unique perspective on the hobby. And because I've seen so many different hype cycles, I feel like a lot of my inputs are probably a bit more unique than you'd see, just because of my experience in the hobby and obviously having this channel and just seeing so many different things play out. Though the one area I think we need to talk about for the future of Pokemon cards, though, it's the perception of Pokemon cards as collectibles and how serious people actually take them. Now, to be fair, this has already happened, and we can see that Pokemon cards, I can even see it in the few years of this channel, the shift of how people seriously take Pokemon cards, it's been tremendous. Even when I used to speak to my friends, I'd be like, oh yeah, I collect Pokemon, or I invest in collectibles, I would get very strange looks, and it would be like, oh, that is just, okay, cool. But now that perception has really changed with a lot of pop culture and a lot of things that have happened. That's really shifted, and people don't actually give you those looks anymore. They just kind of be like, oh yeah, I can see that, because collectibles are such a powerful force, and they've really proven themselves over the years. And I think one of the biggest kind of eye-opening moments for me was actually when my wife was, we were changing insurance providers, okay? Now, a few years ago, whenever we spoke about insurance, if you know, when you talk to an insurance company and you want to insure some of your stuff, they ask you, oh, what are you insuring? What are some of the items that you want insured? And you give a value, and then you kind of start speaking about what you have. So, you got your standard stuff, the laptop, yep, tick, cameras, jewelry is usually easy, all that stuff, anything like with your furniture and all those things, that's usually a very straightforward process. But I remember a few years ago, whenever it came to my wife having to say, oh yeah, and we want to insure our Pokemon cards or our trading card collection, it would always be like this, oh, okay. And are these Pokemon cards in the room with us right now? Like you would get a very different kind of vibe. Though literally the other day, my wife was calling to change insurance providers. And of course she was dreading the part when she was like, and now the big part that we want to insure is our Pokemon cards? And she was just kind of waiting for the response, and they were just like, oh yep, trading cards and collectibles, gotcha. And my wife was like, what? And then like every insurance provider that she was kind of calling to get a better quote, whenever she mentioned Pokemon cards or collectibles, there wasn't that kind of big thing like, what are these things? Or, oh, that's a new one. Oh, that's something I haven't heard of before. That was actually a really eye-opening moment for me, because I just noticed like, hey, that change has already happened in the last time we spoke to our insurance providers till today, which is a few years. The amount of people that would be insuring their collectibles and their Pokemon cards, it would just become such a common discussion point, which probably a few years back wasn't the case. And also, hey, I just want to say, if it is your first time here, welcome to the channel. My name's Phil, and I've been making content around Pokemon cards for a few years now. Honestly, it's always great seeing new people on the channel. If you do like this style of content, definitely feel free to subscribe. It's always awesome seeing new people on board. You were even getting Wall Street Journal articles talking about how powerful Pokemon cards are as an investment. People that don't even care about Pokemon Pokemon are jumping in to just see what is going on. So this is a really interesting time in the market right now. It's a really interesting period because if it's going to get taken very seriously right now, you can only imagine what's going to happen in a few years, because that just means this area is going to grow more, it's going to get more popular, and more people are going to take this much more seriously in how they treat it. And that's why I do think the shift of Pokemon cards as investments and collectibles, that shift has already taken place, and I imagine in a few years it's going to get very, very serious. People will start taking this just as serious as gold, or just as serious as a high-ended jewelry. That shift is already happening now, and we can only imagine in the future it's just going to become a much more accepted part of investments and how it works, and collectibles will be seen as a very serious part of that as well. Now also, with Pokemon changing, there's also new tools coming about, and that's why I do want to talk about today's video sponsor, Double Hollow. At its core, Double Hollow is a Pokemon marketplace with some of the most competitive platform fees of only 4.9%. That's a really big deal because we all know how much seller fees can actually eat into profits. But what I really like is how far it just goes beyond listings. For example, you can actually place bids on specific cards, and you can just leave these offers active in the system. Now, if you do upgrade to the premium version, it actually unlocks a lot of cool features. One I really like is the pack value tool. Here it shows you the expected value of opening a particular booster pack, or the EV, versus the price of the booster pack in the current market. There's also a really cool AI pick section. Here it shows you the top 10 cards to buy in the market versus the top 10 cards to avoid. Now, what's so cool, if you do want to try some of the premium features of Double Hollow, you can actually get a 30% discount off your first month by using the promo code on screen. You can find the promo code and the links all in the video's description. A big thanks to Double Hollow sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into this video. Now, the next area that we need to speak about for the future, and one that I'm expecting to change a lot, is that pop reports won't really be a discussion point anymore, as it doesn't seem to be really having any effect on the market right now. And I actually think higher pop reports will actually start doing the reverse in the market. Now, what I mean by doing the reverse in the market, I mean by if a card has high pop reports, such as the Van Gogh Pikachu or the Charizard of 151, that's gonna kind of be like, oh, you collect Pokemon cards? It's expected that you have that in your collection. Or a lot of collectors will be like, yeah, if you're collecting, you really should have one of these because there's high pop reports. I actually have noticed that the high pop reports are having zero effect on a card's price trajectory. And a few years ago, that was very different. It was cards with low pop reports. Now, pop reports matter, I suppose, in the context of vintage and older cards because they're very finite. But in terms of modern collecting, I don't think pop reports really have much discussion anymore. Sure, some cards may be harder to grade, but when you look at real top chase cards, whether it's the Mega Charizard X, whether it's the Mega Gengar from Ascended Heroes, the Van Gogh Pikachu, Charizard 151, Bubble Mew, Moonbron has huge pop reports, even the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon, they're all getting high pop reports. The big thing here though, it doesn't really matter in the market, and I think this is going to shift a lot. And like I said, I really do feel that if a card does have high pop reports, that just means that, hey, if you're collecting, that is actually somewhat possible, and it's kind of shifted a lot because you got to remember as well, if there is 30,000 cards in PSA 10, we as collectors think that's a lot. But when I mean, there's a lot of collectors out there. It is such a big growing field. I've never seen so many people enter the hobby. So even when something has like 15,000 copies and people say, geez, that's high pop reports, I don't know if it really is when we actually look how many collectors are in the market. Yes, they're very expensive, but really at the same time, I do think the whole discussion of pop reports will just become a thing where people go, hey, that doesn't really matter anymore. And I can already see that happening now, but that thing like, oh, it's low pop. Well, I don't even know if like I've got a few cards that are super low pop, and I don't really think that a lot of you on the channel would even really want them in your collection. I think what matters far more right now is how desired it is in the market and how much media spotlight does it have. How much are people talking about it? Are people making shorts about it? Are people making reels about it? Are content creators speaking about it? Is it at card shows? Does everyone want to see that particular card? At that point, it doesn't really matter how much pop reports there are. What matters is, do you want that in your collection? If you do, that's the price that you need to pay. And that shift is taking place right now. Now, something also to discuss about the future is that modern Pokemon cards may age much better than people expect, because right now we're living through the golden age of trading cards, particularly Pokemon cards. It's funny because the previous golden age was the 1990s or the late 1990s with all vintage Wizards of the Coast era. That was the golden age of Pokemon cards, though I actually don't think that that's the golden age anymore. I actually think the title of the golden age is right now. We are living in it. And when you look at all the iconic cards, whether it's Bubble Mew, Moonbryon, any of the Mega Charizard X, these cards have such a massive audience about them. So many people are interested in them. And it is so hard for a lot of these iconic sets, whether it's Prismatic Evolutions, Destined Rivals, Ascended Heroes, these are going to become such popular sets even in the future because they're right now people are establishing core memories with them. So many kids are opening these sets. So many kids are just interested. Everyone's researching these things. And I think pair that with how modern pop reports are going and modern cards, I really do think modern Pokemon will age much better than people expect. Vintage is also going to be aging fantastic as well. Though I really do think the modern era and the whole discussion like, oh, Pokemon's going to just crash to zero one day or no one's going to care about it. I really don't think that's going to happen at all because the amount of people that are now within the world of Pokemon, the amount of people that are just excited about this new world, the amount of new people that are coming in every day. You got to remember, even when a new game, like I speak about Pokemon Pocopia, that is breaking sales worldwide. Week on week, the amount of new people buying the game is massive, and eventually they're gonna get more interested. They're gonna get more interested in the world of Pokemon. They're gonna say, oh, what about these Pokemon cards? Everyone talks about them. You know what? I want to just start researching it, and then they sort of spill over from that into the TCG, and we're going to just see so many more people entering, especially with Generation 10 with Winds and Waves. You can really expect a whole new era of collectors to come in. Now, another area that I expect to grow is also about collecting on a budget, and people will be much more strategic with how they collect. At the moment, the price of the hobby is super high, and a lot of people just have this kind of thing where they expect, hey, I need to pay massive prices to get some skin in the game. But what's so cool is that there actually is a few different ways to be able to build a collection that doesn't involve forking out so much money. Now, there is a lot of ways to collect on a budget, and I do speak about that in a lot of videos. I'll link one here for you if you are interested in that. Though a big thing about collecting, and I just want to kind of talk about this, is there is something known as the Diderot effect. This is essentially when it's an effect known as when you buy one thing and then you start buying a lot of things to match that initial purchase. And you kind of go into a spiral of consumption. Essentially, think about like you move into a new home, so you buy a TV, and then you got the new TV, but then you want some new speakers or surround sound for the TV. Then you go, okay, I'm gonna buy the surround sound. Then you're kind of looking at your couch and go, it's not really that comfortable. I want to kind of get a new couch to make sure that the TV, I want to game on this couch, and I want to make sure that it's a bit more fun. So you buy that, etc., etc., etc. And that happens very commonly with Pokemon cards. People buy a sealed product and they say, I want a PSA 10 card of that. Oh, you know what? How can I have that in PSA 10 and not have this in PSA 10, etc.? And they go into a spiral of consumption. In terms of learning to collect on a budget, one of the key areas, and I think this is going to become a big thing in the future where people are discussing this far more, is spotting undervalued cards or spotting things that are quiet in the market. And I think a lot of people are going to put a high emphasis on cards that are pretty affordable in the market today, but they probably won't be in the future if they choose the right cards or if they have a good knowledge of what's happening. The areas like this, like Mew Special Illustration Rare from the 151 UPC, yes, believe it or not, that card's pretty expensive now, but it was once a $4 card. Even the Crown Zenith Pikachu, that was once a $15 card, and now we can see the prices of that. It's really climbed up in price. So these things are things that collectors will be getting better at, and I do think that the strategy of just people are just, I'm gonna buy cases, or I'm gonna just buy these crazy expensive PSA 10s, sure, you're gonna have a market that do that, but I do think in the future, there's actually gonna be a new strategy where people actually start picking these undervalued cards, and a big discussion point comes around these, and they track it over the years. You got to remember, Pokemon investing as a whole is actually it's actually still new, but now it has definitely become a mainstream thing where a lot of people are buying Pokemon cards and collectibles. But I do think that budget area of collecting will definitely continue to grow. But as much as all these areas are changing and the future is looking quite interesting, it's also really important to not overspend on the hobby right now. And I do talk about the 5 biggest wastes of money with Pokemon collecting in this video on screen right here. Within this video on screen, I go into some of the biggest wastes of money when it comes to collecting. If you enjoyed this video, click the video that's appearing on screen. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video.